There comes a moment in every journey when the silence breaks, not because you demanded an answer, but because the one who holds the answer has decided you are ready to receive it. There are truths too heavy for the untested heart, and revelations that would have crushed you had they come too soon. But time, like a masterful teacher, has been shaping your understanding, strengthening your trust, and deepening your faith until the day your spirit could bear the weight of what must now be said. God is not a careless storyteller. He speaks in seasons, unfolds mysteries in measures, and guards the fullness of his counsel until the appointed hour. You have walked through shadows wondering if he was silent when in truth he was speaking in ways you could not yet interpret. Every unanswered prayer was not neglect but preparation. Every delay was a shield against knowledge that would have been misused or misunderstood. Now the hour has come. The veil is thin, and the truths long hidden are about to be laid bare. You will see how every detour was a design, every closed door a mercy, every tear an unseen ink in the story of your redemption. And when he speaks, it will not be in fragments, but in fullness, because the time for half light has passed, and the day for clarity has dawned. Revelation comes in appointed seasons because truth, in its fullest form, is not meant to be thrown recklessly into our lives, without regard for the soil it will land on. Just as seeds cannot take root in frozen ground, God's words cannot take root in a heart that is not yet ready. He knows when the soil has been broken, when the rains have softened it, and when the sun is ready to give it light. In the same way, he waits for the precise moment when your heart, mind, and spirit have been prepared to receive the depth of what he longs to show you. To reveal too early would be to place treasure into hands that cannot yet carry it. To reveal too late would risk missing the moment for transformation. And so, in his perfect wisdom, he chooses the season when revelation will not only be heard but embraced. We often think we are ready before we are. Our impatience can make us believe that delay is denial, that God is holding back out of reluctance or disinterest. Yet his restraint is an act of mercy, for he sees the places in us still fragile, the wounds still healing, the pride still lingering. A premature revelation could be misunderstood, mishandled, or even weaponized against ourselves or others. God does not entrust sacred knowledge to an unprepared vessel, because what is holy must be handled with reverence. In his kindness, he withholds until the moment when receiving it will be a blessing rather than a burden. There is also a mysterious rhythm to God's timing, a pattern that we cannot predict, but can often recognize only in hindsight. Like the turning of the seasons in nature, there are shifts in our spiritual lives that signal something is approaching. A restlessness begins to stir. Old questions rise again, but this time with less accusation and more anticipation. The silence that once frustrated you begins to feel purposeful. You may not yet know the answer, but you sense the answer is near. That is the quiet work of God aligning the pieces, so that the moment the revelation comes, it will meet not just your ears, but your life in perfect harmony. Revelation is not merely about information, it is about transformation. God is not trying to satisfy curiosity. He is aiming to shape your character, strengthen your trust, and deepen your love for him. This is why he times his revelations with such precision. A truth revealed too soon might inflate ego rather than inspire humility. A truth revealed too late might harden the heart with despair. The appointed season is when the truth will accomplish its intended purpose in you, shaping you in ways that align you with his will. When the moment finally comes, you realize the wait was not wasted. The questions you once thought were being ignored were actually being answered in slow, subtle ways. The trials you endured had been forming the strength you would need to handle the weight of the answer. The loneliness you walked through had been teaching you to lean on God's voice above all others. The pieces of your life that seemed scattered had been quietly arranging themselves, so that when the truth was spoken, it would fit seamlessly into the picture of your story. And when the appointed season arrives, there is a holy weight to the revelation. It lands with clarity, not confusion. It comes with peace, even if it challenges you. It resonates deeply, as though your soul has been waiting for it all along. That is the mark of God's perfect timing. When the truth arrives, it feels not like an intrusion, but like the unlocking of a door you didn't know you were ready to open. You find yourself not just understanding the revelation, but carrying it with a maturity that you did not have before. Over time, you begin to see that every season leading up to this moment had a purpose. The struggles you thought were random were the very tools God used to prepare you. The delays you resented were the pauses that prevented premature action. The detours you didn't understand were the pathways that positioned you for exactly this point in time. You could not have manufactured this timing yourself, nor could you have guessed it. It is the beauty of God's sovereignty to weave His answers into your life in such a way that they not only arrive when you are ready, they also prove that He was guiding you all along. When revelation comes in its appointed season, it carries a power that shapes the rest of your journey. You walk differently, speak differently, believe differently, because you have experienced the wisdom of God's timing firsthand. You no longer see delay as neglect, but as preparation. You no longer mistake silence for absence, but recognize it as the careful crafting of the moment, when all things will be made clear. And in that realization, trust takes deeper root, knowing that if He was faithful in this, He will be faithful in every season yet to come. If you want, I can now expand the next keynote. Silence was not absence, in the same deep style, so they flow as a connected sermon series. That way, each builds on the last like a layered message. The weight of truth requires strength, because truth is not always a gentle comfort. It can be a heavy burden. It can illuminate paths we would rather not walk and expose realities we would rather not face. There is a reason God waits before unveiling certain revelations. The human heart must be fortified before it can carry them without collapsing under their weight. Truth, in its fullness, demands courage to receive it, humility to accept it, and endurance to live by it once it has been revealed. If you think of truth as a precious jewel, then strength is the setting that holds it in place. Without that setting, the jewel is lost or damaged. God will not place the jewel of His deeper wisdom into the hands of someone who has not yet learned how to handle it. It is not punishment, it is protection. For truth, mishandled, can wound rather than heal, divide rather than unite, and lead to pride rather than worship. Only a heart that has been tested, humbled, and refined can hold the weight of a revelation without distorting it. We often pray for answers without realizing that the answers themselves can be disruptive. They can dismantle our illusions, confront our selfishness, and call us to obedience that costs us more than we imagined. Some truths will require you to let go of long-held offenses, to forgive those you swore you never would, or to step away from comforts you once thought essential. Without inner strength, such truths would feel unbearable, and instead of bringing life, they would crush the spirit. God, in His mercy, builds your strength before He entrusts you with such truths. This is why trials often precede revelation. The storms you endured, the losses you faced, the waiting you resented, all of it was forging something inside you. You may have thought you were simply surviving, but in reality, you were being strengthened for what was ahead. Endurance is not wasted. It becomes the vessel into which God can pour heavier and deeper truths. Those seasons where you felt stretched to breaking were actually expanding your capacity to hold more of Him. More of His wisdom, more of His calling, more of His plans. Even in Scripture, those who received the heaviest truths were often the ones who had endured the deepest refining. Moses had to spend 40 years in the wilderness before God revealed Himself at the burning bush. Paul had to be blinded and stripped of his old identity before he could be entrusted with the mystery of the gospel. The disciples had to walk through confusion, fear, and loss before they could carry the truth of the resurrection to the world. Strength came before revelation, not after. And once the truth comes, strength is still needed to carry it forward. Revelation is not meant to be a momentary experience. It is a lifelong responsibility. You must live it, guard it, and embody it in a way that honors the one who entrusted it to you. This means there will be days when the truth feels heavy, when obedience to it feels costly, when standing by it makes you misunderstood or even rejected. Without the strength forged in earlier seasons, you would be tempted to lay it down or compromise it for the sake of comfort. God's timing, then, is not arbitrary. He is not withholding truth from you to frustrate you. He is building you into the kind of person who can stand under the weight of it without faltering. You may feel ready, but readiness is not proven by desire. It is proven by endurance. The very fact that you are still here, still seeking, still faithful after all you've walked through, is evidence that you are stronger now than you once were. And that strength is not just for surviving. It is for holding the truth that will shape the rest of your journey. When the moment comes and God places that truth into your hands, you will understand why it did not come sooner. You will feel the weight of it, yes, but you will also feel the strength in your spirit to bear it. And you will realize that the season of struggle was not only about getting you to the answer, it was about making you strong enough to live it. Every delay had a purpose, though in the moment it felt like nothing but a slow erosion of hope. When days turned into months and months into years, it was easy to believe that heaven had forgotten you. But delays in God's hands are never idle pauses. They are deliberate spaces where unseen work is being accomplished. Just as the roots of a tree push deeper in seasons when nothing blooms above the surface, your unseen life was growing in strength while you waited. The lack of visible movement did not mean the absence of divine motion. It meant that the work was happening in the places you could not see. Delay is one of God's most misunderstood tools. We often interpret it as denial, assuming that because the answer is not immediate, the answer must be. Yet in truth, a delay can be God's greatest act of love. It can be the shield that keeps you from walking into a blessing prematurely and destroying it with unprepared hands. It can be the pause that allows circumstances to align perfectly, so that what He gives you will not slip through your fingers. Delay can be the cocoon in which transformation happens, ensuring that when you emerge, you are equipped for what lies ahead. In the waiting, God works on both ends of the story. While you are being shaped to receive, He is shaping the blessing to fit you. He is softening hearts, opening doors, dismantling obstacles, and even closing pathways that would have led you astray. There are connections being made, people being positioned, and timing being orchestrated so precisely that the final outcome will bear the fingerprint of His sovereignty. If the answer had come earlier, it would have been incomplete, misaligned, or unsustainable. But the delay ensures wholeness, alignment, and longevity. Sometimes, delay is not just about what you are waiting for. It is about who you are becoming in the wait. The stretching of patience deepens endurance. The surrendering of control builds trust. The quiet seasons teach you to recognize God's voice in stillness, not just in activity. And perhaps most importantly, delay breaks your dependence on immediate gratification, replacing it with a dependence on God's character. You learn to say, even if it doesn't happen when I want, I believe it will happen when it should. That is the posture of a heart ready for fulfillment. Consider how often in Scripture delay was the soil in which destiny took root. Joseph's dreams were delayed for years in prisons and palaces before they came to pass. Yet each delay positioned him for the right moment to step into leadership. David was anointed as king long before he wore the crown. Yet the years of hiding and hardship shaped him into a man after God's own heart. Even Jesus waited 30 years before beginning his public ministry, allowing the fullness of time to prepare the world for what He came to do. If delay was necessary for them, it is certainly purposeful for you. And when the moment finally comes, when the delay gives way to movement, you see with sudden clarity why it could not have happened sooner. The people who once opposed you may now be allies. The resources that were unavailable may now be in abundance. The doors that were sealed shut may now swing open effortlessly. The you who would have squandered the blessing is no longer the you who receives it. The delay has done its work. It has not only prepared the promise for you, it has prepared you for the promise. In hindsight, you may even find gratitude for the delays you once despised. You will see that every extra day of waiting was an extra day of unseen preparation, protection, and divine alignment. You will realize that if the answer had come when you first asked, it might have satisfied your immediate desire, but failed to fulfill your ultimate good. And then you will understand that God never wasted a moment, not one tear, not one prayer, not one sleepless night. The delay was never empty, it was full of purpose from the very beginning. The puzzle will suddenly make sense, though for so long it seemed as if the pieces of your life were scattered without any hope of connection. You turned them over in your hands, studying their jagged edges, wondering if they belonged to any picture at all. There were seasons when every event felt isolated, moments of joy cut short, trials without explanation, closed doors that seemed cruel, and opportunities that appeared only to vanish. You prayed for clarity, yet the more you looked, the more random it all appeared. It was as if God had poured out the pieces, but hidden the box with the picture on it. But God never loses sight of the image He is forming. Even when the pieces lie face down in the mess of your days, He sees exactly where each one belongs. The delays, the detours, the sudden turns. All of them are fragments of a greater design that can only be understood when they are brought together. What feels disconnected in the moment is, in reality, deeply connected in the mind of God. And when the time is right, He begins to place them with precision until the pattern emerges before your eyes. It is often in hindsight that you begin to see the shape of things. That season of waiting you hated becomes the very piece that fits perfectly with the opportunity you now hold. The relationship that ended painfully becomes the open space for a connection you would have otherwise missed. The job you lost becomes the pathway to the calling you would never have pursued. God weaves in even the pieces you thought were ruined or irrelevant, and in His hands nothing is wasted. The beauty of God's puzzle making is that He works from the center outward. He starts with the truth of who He is and the calling He has placed on your life, and every piece is positioned in reference to that unshakable core. That is why you could not see the whole picture at first, because He was building it from the inside, and the edges were still incomplete. When you tried to force the pieces together yourself, they didn't fit, because you were building without the full vision. But when He is the one placing them, even the most unlikely shapes lock into place with a satisfying click. Then, almost without warning, the moment comes when the picture emerges. What once seemed random now tells a story so intricate and purposeful that you cannot help but marvel. You see that the bitter seasons were balanced by the sweet, the losses paved the way for gains, and the prayers that seemed unanswered were being answered in a far deeper way than you knew to ask. The transitions you resisted were necessary shifts, moving you into alignment with the life He designed for you. And when the puzzle begins to make sense, you experience a strange mix of awe and humility. Awe at the skill of the one who could take such scattered fragments and form them into beauty. Humility in realizing that you doubted Him so often along the way, not understanding that He was holding the full picture all along. There is a peace that settles in when you know that no piece was ever truly missing. No piece was ever without purpose, and no piece was beyond redemption. From that moment forward, you carry a different kind of trust. You stop panicking when a new piece lands in your lap that you do not understand, because you have seen how the designer works. You no longer try to force the edges or control the image, because you know that the one who began the puzzle will complete it. And so, even when the next chapter starts with scattered shapes and unfamiliar patterns, you hold them with patience, knowing that in time, the puzzle will once again make perfect sense. Truth will bring healing, not just information, because God's revelations are never meant to merely fill your mind. They are meant to restore your soul. Information can be cold, clinical, and detached. It can explain the what and the how, without ever touching the deeper why that aches inside you. But when God speaks truth into your life, it comes wrapped in a presence that mends the places you didn't even realize were broken. It does not simply satisfy curiosity, it changes you. It untangles lies you've carried for years, silences the false narratives that have haunted you, and restores the confidence you lost somewhere along the way. There is a reason God often waits before revealing certain truths, Some wounds run so deep that they are not ready to be touched until the surrounding flesh has been strengthened. If he were to reveal everything too soon, the truth might feel like salt on an open wound rather than the balm it is meant to be. But in his perfect timing, truth arrives not to reopen pain, but to redeem it. It comes as a gentle yet powerful force, stitching together what sorrow tore apart. When the truth comes from him, it carries more than explanation. It carries presence. His words do not just land in your ears, they soak into your spirit. They come with the assurance that you were never alone in the struggle, that every moment of confusion was watched over, that the tears you cried in the dark were counted and remembered. And in that assurance, healing begins. The moment you realize he was there in the very moments you thought he had abandoned you, the sting of those memories begins to fade. God's truth also has a way of reframing your pain. What once seemed like pointless suffering begins to look like purposeful preparation. You see how the hardship shaped your character, how the losses shifted your direction, and how the delays protected you from harm. The circumstances themselves may not have been good, but the truth reveals how God was bringing good from them all along. And this reframing is not just mental, it is deeply emotional and spiritual. It allows you to release bitterness, to forgive, to breathe freely again without the weight of unanswered questions crushing you. The healing that comes with truth also dismantles shame. Lies have a way of chaining you to past failures, convincing you that you are unworthy of God's best. But when his truth comes, it exposes the lie for what it is. It reminds you that his grace is greater than your sin, that his mercy is stronger than your mistakes, and that his plans for you were never cancelled by your detours. That kind of truth doesn't just make you feel better, it sets you free, and once you have been healed by truth, you are never the same. You begin to carry it differently than you would carry mere information. Information can be forgotten, healing becomes part of who you are. You live it out without even trying, because it has reshaped how you see God, how you see yourself, and how you see your story. You become more compassionate toward others who are still in their own seasons of waiting and wondering, because you know firsthand how powerful it is when the truth finally comes. Perhaps most beautifully, the healing truth from God leaves no scar that overshadows the beauty of his work. You may remember the pain, but it no longer defines you. You may recall the questions, but they no longer torment you. The truth has done what only divine truth can do. It has taken what was broken and made it whole, not just in part, but in a way that is stronger, deeper, and more beautiful than before.